Hello, everyone, and welcome to the video to cover the timeline instructions. I said I'd make a different video about this in particular because it can get a little bit convoluted. It can generate a lot of questions, and it's, between the two, part one and part two, it's 180 points. So it's a good chunk of your overall grade for the class. So I want to make sure that I am able to help answer some basic questions since we're not really in a class format to do that. I'll do my best. I'm sure there'll still be questions. If you have them, then feel free to reach out to me. Okay, I'm going to do a screen share here, and we will look at this together. All right. So I already have us sitting on the timeline part one area. And the very first thing you're going to look at, other than this video, is the timeline part one instructions, which I have pulled up as well. But just to make you aware of some other things in this area, there's going to be a link to the discussion board area, which is due at, I believe, the end of week 2. And this is going to be where you go in to choose your topic. It's first come, first serve. Talk about this a little bit more in just a second. There's a timeline sample paper in here as well, and a list of approved topics. You'll see this in the discussion board area as well. And then an area where you can turn in part one when it comes time for the assignment to be due. All right, let's look at the instructions. So if you click over the instructions, a couple things. First, I'm going to just get us started by helping to explain the overarching idea here. Is that the timeline is meant to give us the evolutionary perspective of a social welfare program and what historical context does it have. So we might be looking at what was happening in the world and before the social program came to exist. We may dabble in talking about some of the social issues at the time that were happening. We may talk about world events that may have changed and tweaked a social welfare program. And eventually we're going to get us to a point where we're talking about what does the social welfare program look like today. So it's a part one, part two. Part one, you're going to give me the big picture. You're going to give me 30 dates that help me understand that evolution from early days of the program or pre-days right before the program up to current. And when I say current, sometimes people stop like in 2000. If we want to try and bring a little bit early, because even though 2000 doesn't sound that long ago, that's like over 2 decades ago. So we want to try and bring us up to present time as close to possible as we can, given these programs. Okay, so a couple things to know. I'm going to try not to read this word for word because there is a lot of content here, but I encourage you to read it word for word so that you have a good sense of what is expected. Okay, so you're going to submit a timeline covering those 30 dates. The topic must be chosen from the provided list of social welfare programs or by approval of an instructor. You'll submit your chosen topic on a related discussion board that will be linked to the timeline instruction tab. Topics will be assigned on a first come, first served basis. And I'll show you that again here in a second. But essentially, I have a list of programs available to you. You're going to go out, you're going to choose the day that you are the program that you want. And then if no one else has chosen that, then it is yours for the taking. All right, this next piece covers the same kind of evolutionary stuff I was talking about a second ago. For each event, you're going to include the date, the event, and a short paragraph describing the event. And I'll show you that in the sample of what I mean by that. References. Do not copy and paste your dates from source material. This happens every semester. What I will do, these will be sent through SafeAssign, and sometimes I'll get someone who will give me back 80% SafeAssign match, which means they essentially went out to someone else's website and pulled the stuff and copied and pasted it in. And you're going to find that, someone may decide they want to cover Head Start, for example. Well, Head Start may have a great website that outlines the evolution of Head Start. Well, I don't want Head Start's timeline. I want your timeline. So you're going to have to step outside of their area and give me references, and you're going to put it in your own words. So do not copy that information from source material. Make sure you reference it. Make sure you synthesize it as much as possible. When I talk about synthesizing material, here's my pro tip. Pretend like you are reading some information, and that you're going to describe it to a friend, roommate, family member who's never heard of the topic before. And you have to describe that thing to them without reading it back to them. How would you describe the event? How would you describe what happened? Why did you describe its importance? If you can do that, that's synthesizing your material. That's what I want to see in these 30 dates. Okay, you need to include an APA-styled references page at the bottom of your timeline that includes at least 3 different sources. So having 3 different sources will help you to have a more fleshed out paper. You'll not need to do in-text citations for this assignment, but you will for phase 2. So here's what my suggestion is. You don't have to do it for this part because it's kind of a work in progress. But in phase 2, you're going to have to do references, APA references for your material. So I suggest going ahead and throwing the parenthetical citation, which is the little parentheses in like the year and the author and that kind of stuff, at the end of each of your dates anyways, because that way when you go through and you figure out which 5 you're going to do later, you know exactly where that source material came from, or at least where one source came from. Okay. And like I said, you'll be submitting that through Safe Assign as well. What's the grading criteria? Which gets us to 80 points. You're going to get 1 point each for identifying the 30 dates. And you're going to get 1 point each for providing a brief description in the form of a short paragraph describing the detailed meaning of each date. Make sure that you're doing this chronologically. Really helps me as a reader to follow along the story that you're trying to tell. And then 20 points for overall presentation and professionalism of the assignment, spelling, mechanics, formatting, that kind of thing. So here's what happens every semester is individuals will say, hey, I was really interested in WIC and I think I exhausted all of my references and I can only get you 25 dates. Sorry. And they'll say that as if getting 25 dates, feeling like they did their best work is still going to get them 80 points. And I just can't do that. If you're missing dates, you're going to have to miss the points. So, that person would automatically miss 10 points, 5 for missing 5 dates and 5 for missing the description. And my guess is based off of that statement is the other 25 dates probably may be lacking as well. So you may miss some additional points here or in the presentation. So don't shortchange yourself is what I'm saying. All right. And then I suggest looking down here in the pro tips section if you want some assistance in figuring out some tips for getting through the paper. My go-to tip is choose a topic that you have an interest in, because you're going to find it a lot easier to do, and synthesize that material like I mentioned. Because if you do that, if you can synthesize a topic and its evolution that piques your interest, then this paper is going to come really easy. You're going to find that, at least what I found from evaluations in the past of this course, is that this is one of the most meaningful experiences of the course, especially because it's online. Because we'll talk about the evolution of stuff in the class, but it's not until you see like, okay, well, I've heard of SNAP, which is food stamps, but I don't really know anything about it. And next thing you know, you give me these dates, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I didn't realize that something that society is so dismissive of and is so derogatory towards sometimes has this like rich history, right? Or things like, we forget that our federal student aid is a kind of welfare, or that things like Medicare and Social Security are forms of social welfare. So when you start to hit things on a more personal level and you start to get that history piece in place, it really makes a difference. Okay, so we're going to link back to our discussion board here for a second, because this is the first step. So if you click on this, well, if you click on this, it does take you to the thread. I'm actually going to go to the discussion board side because it's going to be a little more fleshed out in the description piece. What I did is I essentially took me in right here. But under the discussion board, it talks about that you need to submit your topic, but you need to submit your topic from this list. So if you are interested in doing, let's see, federal TRIO programs, which, I formerly worked in, so I single them out a lot. If you want to talk about federal TRIO programs, you come in here and you create a thread. Well, first of all, you look and see, did anyone else do federal TRIO programs? Nope, I don't see it. Okay, I'm going to create a thread and I'm going to label it in the way that I mentioned on the front page, but what your topic is going to be. And if no one else has claimed that first, that's your topic. What that means is you don't have to wait for me, you don't have to wait for anyone else. You know that at the end of week 2, this is my topic, and it's approved, it's pre-approved, and I'm going to go for it. The reason we did this is I used to get a lot of the same topic, and that really actually hurt individuals because it's really easy to see a standout paper when you have 15 people talking about the same topic versus everyone kind of doing a spread shot. It makes the class more interesting as well. So part of that was a little bit selfish on my part, that I wanted some diversity in terms of what I was reading. And honestly, it has really made for much better papers. Okay, that's part 1. Well, once you're done with it, you're going to submit it down here. That's part 1. Now, if you need to stop here, great. Go ahead and take a breather. I'm going to come back in the description, and I'm going to timestamp this video. But I'm going to keep rolling. I'm going to talk about the part 2, so that if you want to go ahead and get the full picture before you jump in, you can do that. So choose what you want to do now, but I'm going to jump into part 2. So part 2, we're going to click on the instructions. On part 2, we are focusing on 5 dates, and we are blowing those up. So what are the 5 most significant dates that you chose from those 30? And let's zoom in on them. Now, I used to just force everyone to do a research paper, but what I found was that did not produce the kind of quality, product that I was interested in. And research papers are not everyone's strong suit. So if you want to do a research paper, by all means, go right ahead. I've given you the instructions to do that. The only caveat is that the paper should be between 4 and 6 pages. And there's a minimum of 5 references that must be used. All the others will use a minimum of 3 references. So you can definitely do that. APA format, all that kind of good stuff. However, I've given you some other options as well for submitting those other the part 2. One, you can do a short video. You can do this in a number of different ways. But a lot of individuals will focus on 5. They'll kind of do it as like a recorded PowerPoint. I've had some folks turn in actual videos, whatever you want to do. Artistic representation. So this is wide open. So you could do a short story, a song, a poem. We've had a lot of people do some drawings and paintings and graphic design to help show us what that product looks like. Or you can create an infographic. I want a detailed infographic. I say this every semester. I'm not sure what is missing, but I say in red letters, no, don't do this one. Yes, do this big fleshed out one. And every semester I get a bunch of this. This is not what I want. This is way less work than what all of your classmates are doing. I don't want essentially the 5 dates as they appeared on your timeline with pictures next to them. I want to see it fleshed out. I want to see extra information. I want to see data. I want to see graphs. I want to see other pictures. I want to see figures. I want to see why that date is so important in context to other stuff. So it doesn't have to look like this, right? But what it does have to do is it has to tell a bigger picture than the 3 sentences that you had in your part 1. All right. So grading criteria changes a little bit from depending on if you're doing a research paper or what, but it all kind of breaks down the same way. You're going to make sure that you get your references. Use a minimum of 3 references or 5 with the research paper. Clearly identify them using APA formatting, both parenthetically or what we call in-text citations, as well as indicating them at the conclusion of your project. So essentially, I want a references page, no matter what, and I want some parenthetical citation next to the information as it appears. Now, you'll find that people do this in different ways. When you look at the artistic representations, you'll see how individuals did that. 70 points are going to be answering the synthesis question. What, when, who, why, how? Why does this matter? Why do we care? If you could go through and help me understand why we care about your topic and your dates, then you're good. And then 10 points for turning your assignment on time. We'll make sure it's organized, professionally formatted, yada, yada, yada. All right. We've got some good tips on here as well. You're going to submit this on Blackboard, but I'm going to jump back to the content because I want to show you that there are good samples on here for your part 2s. So if you want to do a research paper, here's a research paper. Okay, this one was about the supplemental assistance program, which did a great job. Very traditional. Guys, they got their references page right there. Beautiful. All right. We have individuals who did short videos. So here is one that was posted on YouTube. All these are posted with permission, by the way. So I just want to kind of throw that out there.
Hello,
So
everyone.
this is someone who did the history of foster care. This is by Austin Welp. He did a great job covering the topic, and you'll kind of see if it loads. Kind of used a PowerPoint format and then just did voiceover in the background. Beautiful. Works great. Here's another one about WIC. Here's another video about Head Start. And here's some artistic representation. This is one of my favorites in the class so far, just because it had a cool theme. This is by Jacob Babinek. Hopefully I didn't mess that up too bad, but this was really cool. Each one is kind of themed in a similar way. The topic was public works and economic development. So he talked about the Roaring 20s. You'll see how he went through and discussed why the relevance of the picture. And the next was the Great Depression. Again, a description. Illustration 3 was the creation of the Public Works Administration with PWA. The Hurricane Katrina event. And then number 5 was COVID and the CARES Act. So beautiful pictures, beautiful illustrations, great descriptions. There's that references page that I was discussing earlier. This is a short story. The only thing I'll say about the short story is this one came up a little bit too short on the short story side. Would probably want something a little bit longer than this, but that's the only time we've had someone submit a short story, so I wanted to use it. And then here is another one that is on the art side as well, if you're interested in doing something like that. And here's a no good infographic has been submitted yet. So, again, if you want to do it, go for it, but not this, not this, not this, something fleshed out. So if you want to tackle it, man, I'd be so happy to reach out to you and be like, man, you're the first person that's just like crushed this infographic. Please let me use all your stuff. I can't wait to ask that person. I keep leaving it on there as an option because I want to find the person who does it and does it so well. I want to know about the software you used and want to know about your experience. And I want to shout it out from the rooftops for everyone to see that it is possible to make a great infographic for this topic. And you're going to turn it in here in part 2. All right. So that is the long and the short of it. I did just realize as I was going through, because I did part 1 and part 2 in the same video, I forgot to show you a sample of the part 1 in there, but the 30 date sample is listed in the part 1 area as well. So I did make sure to throw a sample in there. All right. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about this, please reach out and let me know. I know it can be convoluted. Hopefully this answers all of your questions and then some, and you're probably bored of listening to it. So I'm going to stop talking now, but I'm looking forward to seeing all of your creative, artistic representations of these topics. I look forward to seeing that, and I look forward to celebrating the end of that with you as well, since it is one of your biggest assignments. So I appreciate all of you. Thanks.